I'm Jax, and this is my van. I've been working on it for quite some time now. Recently, I've been taking it out on day excursions. I did spend a couple of nights in the van recently as well. Mostly just to test the systems, to see how things are working and make sure everything is going to function appropriately, or you know, make sure that I can I don't encounter any issues that I can't solve out on the road. So yeah, yesterday my daughter reached out to me and asked if I'd be interested in hanging out. So I said, yeah, sure, let's meet somewhere in the van. I said, make some dinner, lunch, whatever. So we picked out a park in Madison. But while I was there, I was getting set up in the van. I was trying to remove one of my tables. I broke it. Broke the mount, actually. This is the base I'm talking about. This is the cap. You can see the sealant that they used to glue that in place. But it pulled right out. And then here is crack. This is an aluminum, casted aluminum base here, and so you know it's pretty well. It's junk really now. So I'm gonna probably have to figure out. I should be able to order a new one of these, but you know, is that problem going to persist down the road? That's the big question. And what am I going to do if it happens again? Or what am I going to do to try to prevent this from happening again? And then there is one other mechanical issue that I do know that I can address, and that is the positive battery terminal. The van's battery has got some corrosion on it, so I'm going to go ahead. I've got a cleaner kit, and I'm going to pick up some anti-corrosion spray or something and clean that up and apply that too. So that'll work out pretty good there. All right, so I set up a time and appointment with the mechanic to change the serpentine belt. So I got to do that tomorrow. But right now I'm going to focus on this battery terminal issue. Not too bad accessibility wise, but you can see here we got some corrosion, and yeah, that's quite a bit. So we're going to have to clean that up. So let's get to it. All right, battery terminals are cleaned and serviced, so that's good. All right, so I'm back in the electrical box once again. Similar issue that I had before, but not nearly as bad. So one thing I want to point out is, yeah. So this was the small jumper that I had between the block and the fuse. And I don't know if this was just too short and the resistance was too high, but this got hot, and this was right by the fuse. Now this was a little bit, you know, darkened from the last situation I had, but I didn't replace it. But now I've gone ahead and extended that wire right here. So this was the fuse blocks that I replaced, and this is the terminal connection. So I went ahead and I increased the length to about 1 foot, and put a loop in here. So hopefully that resistance for that particular, those two connections will be okay. And we'll just keep an eye on it. Make sure everything is nice and tight, and we should be good. But yeah, so we're back in the electrical box. But I mean, outside of that, everything looks fine. Everything seems to be running fine. Just definitely want to keep my eyes on this for a minute and make sure everything's staying safe, I guess. So, all right, so I think I've figured out the issue I'm having with the table legs. These are the legs I cut down. Originally, they were like 27 or 27 inches, call it. Doesn't really matter. But I cut them down to the proper height that I needed for what I call bed mode. Where I lower the tables down and then I bring the cushions over for the bed. Now, these plastic caps on each end are tapered, and they fit into the base, and this is the mount for that goes on the table. The base is inset or recessed into the floor, and then this is part of the table, so this would be, the table would be on top. But at any rate, what I realized was that these, they don't bottom out. So when I made bed mode and I slept on this, I put a lot of weight on 3 of these. There's 3 tables. I put a lot of weight on it, and I forced this tapered cap into the base and in part of the the table head, and that made it incredibly difficult to remove because it was jammed down in there. And part of the reason why the cap came off was that was the cap that I re-glued onto the cut off piece of leg. I believe I used like a Gorilla Glue, a 2-part glue, and I probably just didn't prepare the surfaces properly. I didn't scuff up the paint or the plastic, so the Gorilla Glue didn't really hold very well. So I went ahead and prepped the leg that got stuck and sanded it slightly, and I re-glued it, and I was actually able to get the cap out of the base, so that's good. I still have another short leg that I have to re-glue because the cap pulled out of that one too. But now that I know what I'm up against, the manufacturer also recommends that you don't load the leg with more than 50 pounds. Don't sit on it, don't stand on it, which pretty much me jumping around and rolling around at night in my bed, forced that down in there and caused it to jam up. So now that I know what the issue is, I have to figure out how to solve that. One way is to just purchase entirely different kind of legs that would not do that. There's this same company has like a lock type system that's not tapered on the bottom. It's tapered on the table part, but not on the bottom, and it'll lock in there. But the problem with that is they don't sell just, it's a special leg, which means I'd have to order not 3 but 6 legs, because I need 3 for regular table mode and 3 for bed mode, and they're like $100 a piece, call it roughly. And so I don't really think spending $600 is gonna happen. I looked at adjustable legs, and the problem with adjustable legs, where you can adjust them up and down, is the low portion. I need the low portion a certain a minimum. It needs to go down a certain minimum, or I got to rebuild my bench seats again, and I'm not doing that. So the adjustable ones that I looked at that were reasonably priced, they were also around $100 each, would only allow me, or I would only be required basically to buy 3 of them because I could adjust it up and down. Some of the reviews is that, you know, they were pretty wobbly when they're in the up position, and I didn't really think that that was a good viable option either. There are more expensive legs, some air assisted ones that would be, you know, substantially more stable, but they are substantially more expensive too, so not really saving any money down the road, because again, I'll need 3 of them because I have 3 tables. So what my plan is to support the table when this is in bed mode, and to do that without putting weight on the leg itself. Allow the table to set down onto this leg and be centered and supported essentially, but come up with another solution to actually support the weight of the table, to prevent it from forcing this down. This will center the table, it'll lock the table in, it'll keep it from, you know, moving all over the place, but I'm going to also have something that's going to support that table, and I've got an idea. I got to go check it out and see how it's going to work out, but hopefully it'll be okay. It's definitely a little bit of a hack when it comes down to it, but at the end of the day, I think it'll work. It'll do what I want it to do. It'll support the table so that this doesn't get jammed up again, and it'll also it'll just help keep this whole thing solid and more sturdy. So time to head to the box store. All right, so I think I've got the bed situation sorted. I added some felt onto the rails here. I do really find it annoying when a description has a sub-description. The main heading, of course, said that it came in 2 pieces, or that there was 2 pieces, and that they were 120 inches long, which I took as, you know, perfect, because these are 80 inches long, only to find that below the main description is another sub-description which basically says, oh wait, but the 2 pieces are about 60 inches long. So in other words, they weren't long enough, as long as I was hoping they were, because I wanted to felt the whole thing just for the sake of, you know, uniformity. But at any rate, the felt is there because I had some, when I was sleeping on it the last time, every time I moved, it made a lot of noise. So I figured the felt would help quiet things down a little bit. So with that said, I'm going to deploy the bed. Still trying to figure out the best way, exactly how to do this. But first of all, without any tables set up, I've got to get access to the cabinet space that they're in. And of course, we've got the 3 short table legs, and I've got those repaired. 2 of them, the cap fell out, and the one I'm sure it's going to fall out, so as soon as I figure out which one that is, we can get that sorted. But we need the leg to get that table out, that first table out. It's pretty snug. And then I've got these tubes prepared, which basically they're just going to set over the top of those. And these are going to give us a hard support for the table. Of course, the leg is going to give me, you know, stability from moving, you know, left, right, fore and aft. And then these are just gonna go down over the legs as typical, and then these are gonna set solid on top of those tubes. And then we can open that up, and then that, of course, will sit on the felt. Now, I can see we may have to make a couple of adjustments. We'll see how the elevation feels. I might have to trim these tubes off just a scotch, but we'll see how that works out. But that's essentially what I've got organized. That'll go there. That'll set there. Push it back down. That'll drop back down. And these will deploy just like that. And then they're going to be super solid. And then, of course, the cushions come to the midpoint. These will go on the sides like that, and there you have it. There's our bed. So we'll see. Oh yeah, that felt quieted it right down, and it's super solid now. Yeah, it's a lot better. A lot better. So that's it, basically. Then we put a sheet on there, and we're good. Thank you very much for tuning in. Be sure to check out next week's video. And if you like the content, be sure to like and subscribe.